The blue lights on the control panel blinked faster and faster as Commander Lithani watched the enemy ships get closer to her research station. Her 6 arms moved quickly across the controls as she tried to make the shield stronger, but she knew it would not work. The station was built for science, not for war. Outside the large windows, the gas giant Velthara spun slowly with its purple and orange clouds, looking peaceful and beautiful. But that peaceful feeling was about to end. "Commander, the enemy fleet has 40 ships," said Technical Officer Nixara, as her long fingers danced over the sensor readings. Her voice was calm, but Lithani could hear the fear underneath. "They will be here in 6 hours. Our shields will not last more than 10 minutes against their weapons." Lithani closed her eyes and tried to think. 847 scientists from 12 different planets lived on this station. They came here to study the strange energy patterns that came from the gas giant below. They were teachers, researchers, and students. They had no weapons. They had no army. They had no way to fight back against Admiral Voska and his war fleet. "Have you tried calling for help from the Alliance Defense Forces?" Lithani asked, even though she already knew the answer. "Yes, Commander. The closest Alliance ship is 3 weeks away. The 2nd Fleet is fighting the hegemony near the Cortax system. The 5th Fleet is protecting the core worlds. No one can get here in time," Nixara replied, her head hanging low. Research leader Quental floated into the command center, his gas-filled suit making soft whooshing sounds. His people did not breathe air like most others, but his mind was one of the smartest in the galaxy. "Commander, I have been thinking about our situation. There is one thing we have not tried yet." "What do you mean?" Lithani asked. "Emergency. Protocol 7, Quental said quietly. The command center became very quiet. Everyone knew about Emergency Protocol 7, but no one liked to talk about it. It was the rule that said when all hope was lost, a station could send a help message on all frequencies, including the ones that were forbidden to use. "You want to contact them?" Nixara whispered. "You want to call the DeathworlDers?" Lithani felt her blood turn cold. Every child in the galaxy knew stories about the DeathworlDers. They came from a planet so dangerous that most species would die just from breathing its air. They were strong like metal and fast like lightning. They fought wars that would destroy entire civilizations and then went home to eat dinner with their families. The Galactic Council had made rules to keep them in their own part of space far away from civilized worlds. The humans, Quental said, using their proper name. They have ships. They have weapons. And from what I have heard, they do not like bullies. But the stories, Nixara said, her voice shaking. They say humans are monsters. They say they enjoy fighting. They say they eat their enemies. Those are just stories, Quental replied. But their ships are real. Their weapons are real. And right now they are our only hope. Lithani looked at the screen showing Admiral Voska's fleet getting closer. The hegemony had been growing stronger for years, taking over peaceful worlds and making slaves of their people. They did not care about science or learning, they only cared about power and control. If they took over this station, all the research would be lost. All the scientists would become prisoners or worse. "How long do we have?" Lithani asked. 5 hours and 37 minutes until their weapons are in range, Nixara said. Lithani made her choice. "Send the message. Emergency Protocol 7. All frequencies." Nixara's hand shook as she typed the message. "Any vessel capable of military intervention. Civilian lives in imminent danger. Coordinates attached. Please help us." The message went out across space, traveling faster than light to every corner of the galaxy. It bounced off relay stations and communication satellites, reaching worlds that most people had never heard of. And in the dark space near a yellow star, far from the civilized galaxy, something heard the call. Admiral Taemin was drinking tea in his quarters aboard the battleship, Soul's Pride, when the alarm sounded. He was a tall man with kind eyes, but those who knew him understood that he could be very dangerous when his people were threatened. He had fought in more battles than he could count, but he still hoped for peace. The communication officer's voice came over the speakers. "Admiral, we are receiving an emergency transmission on all frequencies. It appears to be a civilian distress call." Taemin put down his tea and walked quickly to the bridge. The Soul's Pride was the flagship of the 7th Deep Space Fleet, one of humanity's most powerful war groups. Around him, 22 other ships waited for orders. These ships had been built for one purpose: to protect humanity and its allies from those who would do them harm. "Let me hear it," Taemin said. The message played through the bridge speakers. Even though it was translated from an alien language, the fear in the sender's voice was clear. Someone was about to die, and they had nowhere else to turn. "Sir, the message is coming from the Velthera system near Hegemony Space," said Lieutenant Commander Hyunwoo from the navigation station. Long-range sensors show a large fleet moving toward the coordinates. Captain Bora's voice came through, the communication system from her destroyer, Busan Thunder. "Admiral, we can be there in 4 hours if we push the engines to maximum." Taemin looked at the star map showing the location of the distress call. It was far from human space in a part of the galaxy where few humans had ever traveled. The aliens who lived there had always been afraid of humanity. They told stories about human monsters and kept humans away from their worlds. But now, when death was coming for them, they were asking for human help. "General Wu Jin," Taemin said into his communicator. "Yes, Admiral," came the reply from Earth Command. "We have received a civilian distress call from the Velthera system. Hegemony forces are about to attack a research station with nearly 900 civilians. Request permission to respond." There was a pause. General Wu Jin was thinking about politics and treaties, and all the complicated rules that governments made. But then his answer came clear and strong. "No one dies on our watch, Admiral. All ships immediate deployment authorized." Captain So Young's voice came from the carrier Jeju Storm. "Fighter wings ready for launch." Major Dong Hyun reported from the assault transport Gwangju Shield. "Marines ready for deployment." All across the fleet, ships began to move. Engines that could push a vessel faster than light started to warm up. Weapons systems that could destroy planets came online. Men and women who had trained their whole lives for moments like this prepared to jump into the unknown, to save people they had never met. Taemin sat in his command chair and looked at the stars ahead. In a few hours, the 7th Fleet would arrive at Velthera. They would face an enemy that outnumbered them. They would fight to protect aliens who feared them. They would risk their lives for strangers who had called them monsters. But that was what humans did. When someone cried for help, humans answered. It did not matter who was calling or why they needed help. It only mattered that they were in danger. "All ships, prepare for hyperspace jump," Taemin ordered. "We have people to save." The space around the research station looked empty and peaceful until suddenly it was not. 23 human warships appeared out of nowhere, their metal hulls gleaming in the light from the gas giant below. They moved in perfect formation, like a school of deadly fish swimming through the black ocean of space. Commander Lithani stared at her sensor screen and could not believe what she was seeing. The energy readings from the human ships were unlike anything she had ever encountered. Each vessel produced more power than her entire research station. Their weapons signatures were so strong that her computers kept giving error messages. "By the 7 moons," whispered Technical Officer Nixara. "How did they get here so fast? The message went out only 3 hours ago." "Their ships must be faster than anything in the Alliance fleet," Lithani said, her voice full of wonder and fear. "But are they here to help us or to take over the station themselves?" Research leader Quental floated closer to the main screen. His gas-filled suit made bubbling sounds as he spoke. "Look at their formation. They have positioned themselves between us and the Hegemony fleet. They are protecting us." On the flagship Soul's Pride, Admiral Taemin studied the tactical display, showing the research station and the approaching enemy fleet. Captain Ji-hoon stood beside him, ready to handle communications with the aliens. Ji-hoon spoke 17 different languages and had trained for years in alien customs and cultures. "Admiral, the research station is trying to contact us," Ji-hoon reported. "They sound very nervous." "Put them through," Taemin said, "and use a calm voice. These people are scared enough already." The main screen flickered and showed Commander Lithani. Her 6 arms moved nervously as she spoke. Unknown vessels, this is Commander Lithani of the Catherian Research Station Velthara 7. Are you responding to our distress call? Taman stepped forward and bowed slightly, a human gesture of respect. Commander Lithani, this is Admiral Taman of the Terran Defense Fleet. We received your message and came as quickly as we could. We are here to protect your station and everyone on it. Lithani's eyes grew wide. She had expected the humans to sound harsh and threatening like the monsters from the stories, but Admiral Taman's voice was kind and gentle. Admiral, you do not understand the danger. The Hegemony fleet has 40 ships. They have been conquering worlds for decades. Their weapons can destroy entire cities. We understand the threat, Commander, Taman replied, but you called for help and we answered. No one will harm your people while we are here. On the bridge of the carrier Jeju Storm, Captain So Young was preparing her fighter squadrons. Her pilots were young and eager, but they had trained for years to fight in the vacuum of space. Each fighter was armed with weapons that could punch holes through the thickest armor. Blue Squadron, this is Captain So Young, she said into her communicator. We have civilians to protect and enemies to stop. Stay sharp and follow your training. Yes, Captain, came the reply from 20 different pilots at once. Major Dong Hyun walked through the assault transport Gwangju Shield, checking on his Marines. These were humans who had been trained to fight in any environment, from frozen ice worlds to burning desert planets. They wore armor that could protect them from most weapons, and they carried rifles that could punch through solid metal. Listen up, Dong Hyun said to his troops. We might need to board enemy ships or protect civilians. Remember your training and watch out for each other. The Marines nodded and checked their equipment one more time. They were ready for whatever would come. Far away from the human fleet, Admiral Voska stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominator. He was a large creature with thick skin and sharp teeth. His people, the Hegemony, believed that the strong should rule over the weak. They had conquered dozens of worlds and enslaved millions of aliens. Intelligence Officer Krekson, Voska growled. What are those ships between us and the research station? Krekson studied his sensor readings with growing confusion. Admiral, the computer says they are Terran vessels, but that cannot be correct. The Terrans live far away from here, in the outer spiral arm. Terrans. Voska repeated the word slowly. The Deathworlders. I have heard stories about them, but I thought they were just myths told to frighten children. The energy readings are real, Admiral, Krekson said nervously. These ships are producing massive amounts of power. Their weapon systems appear to be far more advanced than anything in our database. Voska laughed, but it was not a happy sound. Primitives from a single world cannot threaten the might of the Hegemony. We have 40 ships, they have only 23. We will destroy them and then take the research station as planned. Back on the research station, the alien scientists gathered in the main laboratory to watch what was happening outside. Through the large windows, they could see the human fleet spreading out into attack formation. The ships moved with a precision that amazed them. Look how they coordinate their movements, said Dr. Veltar, a scientist from the Andraxian Republic. Each ship knows exactly where the others will be. It is like watching a dance. Research leader Quental nodded. Their technology is clearly superior to anything we have seen. But will it be enough against 40 Hegemony warships? On the human ship Incheon Ghost, Lieutenant Commander Hyunwoo prepared his stealth frigate for battle. His ship was designed to be invisible to enemy sensors, allowing it to strike without warning. He had done this many times before, but never so far from human space. Stealth systems online, reported his tactical officer. We are invisible to their sensors. Good, Hyunwoo said. When the fighting starts, we hit their command ship, cut off the head and the snake dies. Captain Yu-jin aboard the heavy cruiser Daegu Hammer was checking his ship's main weapons. Each gun could fire projectiles at a significant fraction of the speed of light. When those projectiles hit an enemy ship, the results were devastating. All weapons ready, Captain, reported his weapons officer. We have enough ammunition to fight for days. Let us hope we do not need that much, Yu-jin replied. Admiral Tae-min opened a communication channel to all ships in his fleet. All vessels. This is Admiral Tae-min. In a few minutes we will face an enemy that outnumbers us. But we have something they do not have. We have a cause worth fighting for. We are here to protect innocent lives. We are here because someone asked for help and we answered. Fight well, fight smart, and bring everyone home. Yes, Admiral, came the response from 22 different captains. Commander Lithani watched the human preparations with growing amazement. She had expected chaos and violence, like the stories said. But instead she saw discipline and professionalism. The humans worked together like parts of a single organism. Commander, Nixera said quietly, I think we may have been wrong about the Deathworlders. What do you mean? Lithani asked. Look at them. They came here to help us. Even though we have never been kind to their species, they are risking their lives for strangers. Maybe the stories we heard were wrong. Admiral Voska's fleet was now close enough to see the human ships with the naked eye. The hegemony vessels were large and intimidating, designed to frighten enemies into surrender. Their dark hulls were covered with weapon ports and armor plating. All ships prepare to engage, Voska ordered. Destroy the Terran vessels first, then secure the research station. Show these primitives the power of the hegemony. The 40 hegemony ships spread out into attack formation, their weapons powering up for battle. Energy readings spiked across, all frequencies as massive guns prepared to fire. On the Soul's Pride, Admiral Tae-min watched the enemy fleet approach. He had faced worse odds before, but never so far from reinforcements. If his fleet was destroyed here, no one would know what happened for weeks. Admiral, Captain Ji-hoon reported, the hegemony commander is transmitting on all frequencies. He demands that we surrender immediately or be destroyed. Tae-min smiled grimly. Send a reply. Tell him that humans do not surrender when innocent lives are at stake. The message went out across space, reaching both the hegemony fleet and the research station. On the station, the alien scientists cheered. They had never heard anyone stand up to the hegemony like that. Admiral Voska received the human response and roared with anger. Foolish creatures. They will learn the cost of defying the hegemony. All ships attack formation. Prepare to show these Deathworlders how we deal with those who oppose us. The space around the gas giant Velthara was about to become a battlefield. Two fleets faced each other across the void, one fighting for conquest and the other fighting for justice. The outcome would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. The first shots came from Admiral Voska's flagship, bright beams of plasma energy that could melt through solid steel. The beams reached across space toward the human fleet, but they hit nothing but empty vacuum. The human ships had moved at the last second, dancing away from the attack like leaves blown by the wind. Admiral Tae-min stood calmly on the bridge of Soul's Pride as enemy fire passed harmlessly by his ship. His tactical display showed the positions of all 40 hegemony vessels, their weapon signatures, and their likely next moves. To him, this was not chaos but a puzzle to be solved. All ships, weapons free, Tae-min ordered quietly. Protect the civilians. The human fleet opened fire, and the difference was immediately clear. Where the hegemony ships fired wild bursts of energy, the humans sent precise streams of destruction. Captain Yu Jin aboard Daegu Hammer targeted the engines of 3 enemy ships with surgical precision. The hegemony vessels suddenly found themselves unable to maneuver, spinning helplessly in space. Direct hits on targets Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie, reported Yu Jin's weapons officer. Their engines are completely destroyed. On the research station, Commander Lithani watched the battle through her sensors and could hardly believe what she was seeing. The human ships moved like nothing she had ever witnessed before. They dodged and weaved between enemy fire, their pilots making split-second decisions that kept them alive. How are they doing that? Whispered Technical Officer Nixara. No one can react that quickly. Research leader Quental studied the tactical display with growing amazement. Their reflexes are beyond anything we thought possible. And look at their weapons accuracy. Every shot hits exactly where they aim. Captain So Young launched her fighter squadrons from the carrier Jeju Storm. 20 small ships burst out of the launch bays and immediately spread out in all directions. The human fighters were tiny compared to the massive hegemony warships, but they moved so fast that the enemy guns could not track them. Lieutenant Commander Min Ho led Blue Squadron in a daring attack on a hegemony cruiser. His fighter dove between the enemy ship's weapon ports, firing precisely aimed shots that destroyed gun after gun. Behind him, his wingmen followed the same path, their weapons adding to the destruction. Blue Leader to all squadrons, Min Ho, reported, "Enemy point defense is weaker than expected. Their targeting computers cannot keep up with our speed." Admiral Vosika watched his ships being torn apart and felt fear for the first time in years. His weapons officers were firing as fast as they could, but the human ships seemed to predict where every shot would go. It was like fighting ghosts. "Intelligence Officer Kreksan," Vosika roared. "How are they doing this? How can they move so fast and shoot so accurately?" Kreksan studied his readings with growing panic. "Admiral, their reaction times are impossible. Our computers calculate that no known species can process information and respond this quickly, and their pilots are surviving acceleration forces that should kill them." On the stealth frigate Incheon Ghost, Lieutenant Commander Hyunwoo approached the hegemony flagship unseen. His ship was completely invisible to enemy sensors, allowing him to get close enough to study the massive vessel's weak points. "Targeting the bridge and main reactor," Hyunwoo told his crew. "2 shots, then we get out of here before they know what hit them." The Ghost fired twice, its weapons designed to punch through the thickest armor. The first shot destroyed the Dominator's main communication array, cutting Admiral Vosika off from half his fleet. The second shot damaged the reactor, causing power failures throughout the ship. "What was that?" Vosika demanded as the lights flickered around him. "Unknown, Admiral," Kreksan replied, his voice shaking. "Sensors show no enemy ships in our area, but we have definitely been hit." Captain Yunji aboard the destroyer Ulsan Blade was fighting 3 hegemony ships at once. Her vessel was outnumbered and outgunned, but she had something her enemies lacked: experience fighting in impossible odds. She used the gravity field of the gas giant below to slingshot around enemy fire, then struck back with devastating precision. "Engine room, I need everything you can give me," Yunji called to her, Chief Engineer. "Already giving you 110%, Captain," came the reply. "These engines were not designed to run this hot, but they will hold." The Ulsan Blade accelerated beyond what its designers thought possible, diving between 2 hegemony ships and firing at both simultaneously. The enemy vessels, trying to target the fast-moving destroyer, accidentally shot each other instead. Major Sumin prepared her Marines for boarding operations aboard the assault transport Gwangju Shield. Intelligence reports showed that several damaged hegemony ships might be boarded and captured, providing valuable information about enemy plans and capabilities. "Listen up," Sumin told her troops. "Hegemony environmental systems are different from ours. Their air has less oxygen and more sulfur compounds. Your suits will protect you, but do not take them off for any reason." The Marines checked their equipment one final time. Each soldier carried weapons designed to work in the vacuum of space, and armor that could protect them from most forms of attack. They were ready to fight in conditions that would kill most other species. Pilot Officer Jae Sung was flying his fighter through a storm of enemy fire when a plasma beam hit his ship directly. The cockpit filled with smoke and his instruments went dark, but he was still alive. His training kicked in as he fought to control his damaged fighter. "Blue 7 is hit," Jae Sung reported calmly. "Lost main power and navigation, but I am still operational." "Blue 7 return to base immediately," ordered Lieutenant Commander Min Ho. "Negative, Blue Leader. I still have weapons and 1 good engine. I can continue fighting." On the research station, the alien scientists watched in amazement as the human pilot continued to attack enemy ships even though his own fighter was badly damaged. They had never seen such determination and courage. "He should be dead," said Dr. Veltar. "That plasma hit would have killed anyone else instantly." "But he is still fighting," Quental observed. "These humans do not give up, even when facing certain death." The battle had been raging for 2 hours when Admiral Vosika finally accepted the truth. His fleet was being destroyed by an enemy that seemed impossible to defeat. 15 of his ships were already disabled or destroyed, while the humans had lost only 3 fighters and suffered minor damage to 2 vessels. All ships, withdraw immediately, Voska ordered, his voice filled with defeat. Full retreat to the Korgan system. Intelligence Officer Krexon looked at his admiral with confusion. Sir, we still have 25 operational ships. Should we not continue the attack? Look at your screens, you fool, Voska snarled. We are being slaughtered by creatures that should not exist. Every minute we stay here, we lose more ships. We retreat now, or we all die. Captain Sung Ho aboard the medical frigate Soul's Mercy immediately moved toward the damaged hegemony vessels. While the battle still raged around him, he began rescue operations to save enemy survivors. Medical Bay, prepare for multiple casualties, Sung Ho ordered. We will be treating hegemony personnel as well as our own wounded. His medical team worked quickly to set up treatment areas for different alien species. They had trained for this scenario, knowing that humans always tried to save lives, even the lives of their enemies. Admiral Tae-min watched the hegemony fleet begin its retreat and felt no satisfaction in victory. War was never something to celebrate, even when fighting to protect innocent lives. Too many people had died already. All ships, cease fire, Tae-min ordered. Let them go. We came here to protect the research station, not to destroy an entire fleet. The human ships stopped shooting and began rescue operations instead. They moved through the battlefield searching for survivors from both sides and providing medical aid to anyone who needed it. Commander Lithani watched the humans save the lives of their enemies and finally understood that everything she had been told about the Deathworlders was wrong. These were not monsters who enjoyed killing. They were protectors who valued life above all else. Open a channel to Admiral Tae-min, Lithani ordered. The human admiral appeared on her screen, looking tired but determined. Commander Lithani, are you and your people safe? Yes, Admiral, thanks to you and your fleet, Lithani replied. But I must ask, why did you stop fighting? You could have destroyed the entire hegemony fleet. Tae-min was quiet for a moment before answering. We came here to save lives, not take them. The threat to your station is over. That is enough. Across the galaxy, news of the battle spread quickly. The mighty hegemony fleet, which had conquered world after world, had been defeated by a small human force. The Deathworlders had proven that they were not just monsters from scary stories, but the galaxy's most effective protectors. In the depths of space, Admiral Vosika's remaining ships limped toward safety. The Admiral stared at the tactical reports and tried to understand what had happened. His forces had been superior in number and firepower, but the humans had advantages he could not comprehend. Krexon, Voska said quietly, send a message to Hegemony High Command. Tell them we have encountered a new threat. Tell them the Deathworlders are real and they are far more dangerous than we ever imagined. 3 days after the battle, Medical Officer Da-Yun walked through the research station's converted medical bay, checking on patients from both sides of the conflict. Human doctors worked alongside alien physicians, sharing knowledge and techniques, as they treated wounded hegemony soldiers and rescued civilian researchers. How is patient 17 doing? Da-Yun asked Dr. Kilvan, a Catharian physician with 4 arms and gentle silver eyes. Much better, thanks to your medicine, Dr. Kilvan replied. Your medical technology is amazing. This soldier had injuries that should have killed him, but your treatment saved his life. Da-Yun smiled as she watched a human nurse teach an alien medical student how to use human diagnostic equipment. We believe that all life has value, no matter which side someone was fighting on. In the main laboratory, Engineering Chief Kyung-soo worked with Research Leader Quental to repair the station's damaged systems. The human engineer's tools were far more advanced than anything the aliens had seen before, but he shared them freely. Your power systems are very efficient, Kyung-soo observed as he replaced a burned-out control module. We could learn much from your designs. Quental floated closer, his gas-filled suit bubbling softly. And we could learn from your technology. Perhaps we could arrange an exchange program between our species. Commander Lithani stood in the observation deck, looking out at the human fleet. The warships that had terrified her just days ago now seemed like protective guardians. She was trying to understand how everything she believed about humans could have been so wrong. Commander, Technical Officer Nick Sara approached carefully. We have received over 200 messages from other research stations and colonies. They all want to know about the humans. What kind of messages? Lithani asked. They want protection agreements, Nick Sara explained. After hearing about what happened here, everyone wants the Deathworlders to protect them too. Meanwhile, aboard Soul's Pride, Admiral Tae-min was dealing with his own flood of communications. Ambassador Hae-won, the human diplomatic officer, had been working around the clock to respond to requests from dozens of alien governments. Admiral, we have received formal requests for protection agreements from 47 different species, Hae-won reported. The Andraxian Republic, the Veltani Confederation, the Free Worlds Alliance, and many others. They are all offering trade deals, technology exchanges, and military cooperation. Tae-min studied the list of requests with growing concern. How many ships would we need to protect all these worlds? At least 10 full fleets, Hae-won admitted. Maybe more. We simply do not have enough ships or personnel to guard every world. That is asking for help. On Earth, General Insu sat in the headquarters of Human Defense Command, reading reports from the Velthara incident. The battle had lasted only 2 hours, but its effects were spreading across the entire galaxy like ripples on a pond. Intelligence Director Moon-hee, General Insu called to his aide. What are you hearing from our monitoring stations? Moon-hee consulted her datapad. Hegemony forces are avoiding any system where they think humans might be present. 3 different species have declared independence from hegemony control, saying they are under human protection now. The Galactic Council has called an emergency session to discuss what they are calling the human question. General Insu leaned back in his chair. We wanted to stay out of galactic politics. Now it seems like politics is coming to us whether we want it or not. At the research station, a ceremony was being held to honor the humans who had saved so many lives. Representatives from 12 different species had gathered to express their gratitude. Commander Lithani stood before Admiral Tae-min, holding a crystal sculpture that represented the highest honor her people could give. Admiral Tae-min, on behalf of all the scientists at this station, we present you with the Crystal of Eternal Gratitude, Lithani said formally. This crystal is grown over decades in the heart of our homeworld. It represents the light of knowledge that you helped preserve. Tae-min accepted the crystal with a respectful bow. Commander, we did nothing special. We simply answered your call for help. Nothing special? Research Leader Quental floated forward. Admiral, you traveled across the galaxy to save the lives of strangers. You fought against impossible odds to protect people who had never shown kindness to your species. In our culture, there is no greater honor than risking your life for others. Dr. Veltar, the Andraxian scientist, stepped forward with her own gift. Admiral, my government has asked me to present you with this. She held out a small device that glowed with inner light. This is a quantum communicator that can reach our homeworld instantly across any distance. If you ever need our help, you have only to call. Similar presentations came from representatives of other species. The humans were given technology, art, scientific data, and promises of friendship from beings they had never met before. Each gift represented a species that would no longer fear the Deathworlders, but would instead call them friends. Captain Ji Woo of the destroyer Busan Thunder was reviewing casualty reports when she received an unusual message. It came from a small mining colony in the Outer Rim, far from any major trade routes. Captain, her communications officer reported, we are receiving a distress call from the Keptar mining station. They say raiders are attacking their facility. Jiwoo studied the location on her star charts. That is 3 days away at maximum speed. Are there any Alliance ships closer? No, Captain. The nearest Alliance patrol is 2 weeks away, but they specifically asked for human assistance. They said they heard about what happened here, and they trust us to help them. Jiwoo made her decision quickly. Set course for the Keptar system, maximum speed. Send a message to Admiral Tae-min informing him of our mission. This was happening all across human space. Colony after colony, research station after research station, mining operation after trading post, was calling for human help when danger threatened. The reputation of the Seventh Fleet was spreading, and with it came responsibility that humanity had never asked for. Xenobiologist Dr. Ye Jin was working with alien scientists to establish research partnerships between human and alien universities. The knowledge exchange was benefiting everyone involved, as each species brought unique perspectives and technologies to share. Dr. Quintal, your people's understanding of quantum physics is remarkable, Dr. Ye Jin said, as they reviewed research data together. Combined with our engineering capabilities, we could develop faster-than-light communication systems that work across the entire galaxy. And your medical knowledge has already saved dozens of lives, Quintal replied. Your understanding of biology and chemistry is far more advanced than ours. On the bridge of Soul's Pride, Admiral Taemin received a priority message from Earth Command. The transmission was encrypted and marked with the highest security codes. Admiral, General Wu Jin's image appeared on the screen. The Galactic Council has voted to officially recognize humanity as a major galactic power. They are offering us a permanent seat on the Security Council. Taemin was quiet for a moment. What does that mean for us, General? It means we are no longer outsiders looking in, Wu Jin replied. It also means that other species will expect us to take responsibility for maintaining galactic peace and security. Are we ready for that kind of responsibility? Throughout the galaxy, the term Deathworlder protection was becoming common language. Pirates and raiders who had once attacked helpless colonies now hesitated, wondering if humans might respond to any distress call. The mere possibility of facing human ships was enough to make many criminals reconsider their actions. On the research station, Commander Lithani was preparing a detailed report about human behavior and capabilities for the Alliance Intelligence Service. Everything she had observed contradicted the stories that had been told about humans for generations. They are not monsters, she wrote in her report. They are protectors who value life above all else. They fight not because they enjoy violence, but because others cannot defend themselves. They treat their enemies with mercy and their friends with loyalty. If we had understood this earlier, perhaps many conflicts could have been avoided. Technical Officer Nixara was helping to distribute recordings of the battle to other Alliance installations. The tactical data showed exactly how the humans had defeated a superior force through better training, superior technology, and incredible courage. Look at this maneuver, she explained to a group of Alliance military officers who had come to study the battle. The human fighters dove directly into concentrated enemy fire to protect our station. Most species would consider such an action suicidal, but for humans it was just another day at work. The recordings were being studied at military academies across the galaxy. Human tactics and strategies were becoming required subjects for officers of all species. Everyone wanted to understand how 23 ships had defeated 40, and how human pilots had survived conditions that should have killed them. But perhaps the most important change was happening in the hearts and minds of ordinary beings throughout the galaxy. Children who had once been frightened by stories of human monsters were now asking their parents when the Deathworlders would come to visit. Adults who had supported isolationist policies were demanding that their governments establish friendly relations. 6 months had passed since the battle at Velthara, and the galaxy was a different place. Admiral Taemin stood on the bridge of his flagship, now called the Soul's Peace instead of Soul's Pride, watching his expanded fleet patrol 7 different star systems simultaneously. The Terran Protection Fleet had grown from 23 ships to over 200, as humanity responded to the endless calls for help from across the galaxy. Captain Jiwoo commanded the newest division of the fleet, the Rapid Response Force. Her ships were the fastest ever built by human engineers, capable of reaching any distress call within hours instead of days. Just last week, her fleet had saved a passenger transport from pirates, rescued miners trapped by an asteroid collision, and stopped a civil war between 2 neighboring planets. Admiral, Jiwoo reported through the quantum communicator, we have successfully mediated the border dispute between the Veltani and the Corax Federation. Both sides have agreed to human oversight of their trade agreements. Taemin nodded with satisfaction. Well done, Captain. How many worlds are now under our protection? 127 species have signed formal protection agreements, Jiwoo replied. Diplomatic requests are coming in faster than we can process them. The change in humanity's role had happened almost overnight. What started as a rescue mission had become something much larger. Across the galaxy, beings looked to humans not just for military protection, but for justice, fairness, and hope. It was a responsibility that humanity had never wanted, but could not ignore. On Earth, Secretary General Park addressed the Global Assembly, explaining humanity's new position in galactic affairs. We did not seek to become the galaxy's protectors, he said to the gathered representatives from every nation on Earth. But when innocent beings call for help, we cannot turn away. This is who we are as a species. The Assembly voted unanimously to support the expansion of human space forces. Shipyards that had once built cargo vessels now constructed warships. Training academies that had prepared humans for exploration now taught them how to keep peace. Among the stars, in the Outer Rim territories, the effects of human protection were most visible. Pirates who had terrorized shipping routes for decades now avoided any area where humans might patrol. Raiders who had enslaved entire colonies found themselves hunted by human special forces. The mere mention of possible human intervention was enough to make criminals reconsider their plans. Admiral Vosika, the former hegemony commander who had fled from Velthera, was preparing for what he knew would be his final battle. The hegemony high command had given him one last chance to restore their reputation. He had assembled the largest war fleet in hegemony history, 300 ships and 50,000 soldiers. Intelligence Officer Krexen, Voska called to his aide. Are you certain the humans will respond to our attack on the Andraxian colonies? Krexen studied his reports nervously. Admiral, human response patterns are very predictable. They always answer distress calls and they always send enough force to guarantee victory. Our intelligence suggests they will send at least 50 ships to defend SciFiPrime. Voska smiled grimly. Then we will finally destroy them. 300 ships against 50. Even the Deathworlders cannot overcome those odds. But Voska had made a critical error. He assumed that humans would respond the same way they always had, with just enough force to win. He did not understand that the attack on SciFiPrime was different. The Andraxians had been humanity's first alien allies, and an attack on them was considered an attack on humanity itself. Fleet Admiral Chan Ho received the distress call from SciFiPrime while he was reviewing protection agreements at the new Human Command Center on the moon-based Tranquility Station. Chan Ho was humanity's most experienced military leader, a man who had fought in more battles than anyone else alive. How many ships does the enemy have? Chan Ho asked his intelligence officer. 300 confirmed, Admiral. This appears to be the entire remaining strength of the hegemony military. Chan Ho was quiet for a long moment, thinking about the implications. If the hegemony won this battle, every species under human protection would be at risk. But if humanity won decisively, the 1,000-year-old hegemony empire would finally come to an end. Signal all fleets, Chan Ho ordered. Operation Galaxy Shield is now in effect. Every available ship is to converge on the Andraxia system immediately. For the first time since humans had entered galactic affairs, the entire human space fleet was being mobilized for a single battle. Over 400 ships began moving toward SciFiPrime, including vessels that had never been used in combat before. Commander Yura led the advance force aboard her battle cruiser Incheon Victory. She had been promoted after her success in several smaller conflicts, and now she commanded a task force of 30 ships tasked with delaying the hegemony attack until the main fleet could arrive. All ships, maintain formation, Yura ordered, as her force dropped out of hyperspace near SciFiPrime. We need to buy time for the civilians to evacuate. The planet below was home to 50 million Andraxians, peaceful beings who had never harmed anyone. Their only crime was trusting humans enough to ask for protection. Now that trust was being tested in the most dramatic way possible. Admiral Voska was confident as his massive fleet approached the Andraxian system. His scouts reported only 30 human ships defending the planet, Exactly what his intelligence had predicted. Victory seemed certain. All ships attack formation, Voska ordered. Destroy the human fleet first, then bombard the planet. Today, the galaxy will see that the hegemony cannot be defeated. The battle began with the largest exchange of fire in galactic history. 300 hegemony ships opened fire simultaneously, filling space with enough energy to destroy small moons. But the humans were ready for them. Commander Ura had positioned her ships in a defensive formation that maximized their ability to protect each other while minimizing their exposure to enemy fire. Her captains had trained for this exact scenario, learning how to fight against overwhelming odds. Enemy missiles incoming, reported her tactical officer. Impact in 30 seconds. All ships, evasive maneuvers pattern Delta, Ura ordered, calmly. The 30 human ships moved as one, dancing between the incoming missiles like leaves in a hurricane. Their point defense systems, far more advanced than anything the hegemony had seen before, destroyed most of the weapons that got close enough to threaten them. But even human technology had limits. After 2 hours of fighting, Ura's task force had lost 8 ships and was running low on ammunition. The hegemony fleet, despite losing over 40 vessels, still had more than enough firepower to overwhelm the defenders. Commander, her communications officer reported, I am detecting massive hyperspace signatures approaching from the outer system. Ura smiled for the first time since the battle began. That will be Fleet Admiral Chan Ho with the cavalry. 400 human ships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, their combined firepower exceeding anything the galaxy had ever seen. At their head was Chan Ho's flagship, the massive dreadnought Earth's Shield, a vessel so large it carried its own fighter wings and marine divisions. Admiral Vasica stared at his tactical display in disbelief. Instead of 50 human ships, he now faced over 400. The humans had not just responded to his attack, they had brought their entire military force to bear against him. All ships, full retreat, Voska ordered in panic. Emergency jump to the hegemony core worlds. But it was too late. Human ships were faster than hegemony vessels, and Fleet Admiral Chan Ho had positioned his fleet to cut off all escape routes. The hegemony fleet was trapped in the Andraxia system with nowhere to run. The battle that followed was not really a battle at all. It was a systematic destruction of the largest military force the hegemony had ever assembled. Human ships, working in perfect coordination, disabled enemy vessels with surgical precision, while rescue ships moved to save survivors. Within 6 hours, the entire hegemony fleet was either destroyed or captured. Admiral Voska himself was taken prisoner aboard his flagship, finally understanding the true power of the species he had underestimated. Admiral Voska, Fleet Admiral Chan Ho said as he stood in the hegemony commander's cell, "Your empire is finished. Your government has 3 choices: surrender unconditionally, face total destruction, or accept transition to a peaceful democracy under human supervision." Voska looked at the human admiral with defeat in his eyes. "You have won, Admiral. The hegemony surrenders." News of the great victory spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. The 1,000-year-old hegemony empire, which had conquered hundreds of worlds and enslaved millions of beings, had fallen in a single day. The age of galactic oppression was over, and the age of human protection had truly begun. Secretary General Park stood before the Galactic Assembly, speaking to representatives from every known species in the galaxy. Humanity had been offered leadership of the new Galactic Alliance, a position that came with tremendous responsibility. "We accept this role not because we seek power, but because power has found us," Park said to the assembled delegates.